All right, joining us now with reaction polls to Frank Luntz and Fox News contributor Pat Caddell. Mr. Luntz, all right, I was impressed. Donald Trump, according to the Frank Luntz focus groups, won 2 of the 3 debates. That's a very high bar.
Yes, it is a high bar, but the challenge for him now is he's running 5 or 6 points behind. And, Sean, there is still a path. It's a very small one, very narrow one. But that path goes based on rhetorical questions, and I'm going to give you 3 that you can ask again and again between now and Election Day. Is America safer today than it was 8 years ago? Does Hillary Clinton have the honesty and integrity to be president of the United States? And who is more likely to hold Washington accountable? If that is the focus, you can change millions of voter minds. The question is, will there be that discipline?
All right, what was the
and
last
will there
one?
be that focus?
Does Hillary Clinton, what was the last one?
Last one is, who is more likely to hold Washington accountable?
All right, Pat Caddell, what are your thoughts where we stand?
I think we stand, it's a little unclear because the polls are everywhere. And I find a lot of them pretty confusing, and I think I understand the business. But I think that he's several points behind, probably. But I think that there's more than a small pathway. I think there's a big pathway. The basic attitudes in this country are structured against the incumbent party, against Hillary Clinton and the Democrats. If Donald Trump can rise to making this a referendum, even bigger than what Frank Luntz is saying, the real issue here is who owns America, the people or the political class? Whose ox is being gored? The people know it's theirs. They believe the system is rigged against them economically. Trump's got to put these questions, and the question of, do we continue to go down the road of decline, or do we make changes, and do we overturn the corruption in Washington? Those are huge issues. His problem is he is being way too tactical and not strategic enough, in my opinion.
Let me ask you this. Do either one of you think that their polls, maybe there is a certain percentage of people that won't say they're voting for Trump, or is that just fantasy thinking among Trump supporters? I tend to say you got to believe the polls. Do you think there's a possible Brexit effect? I say you can't count on it. What do you say, Frank Luntz?
I agree with you. We polled in Brexit, and we had Leave beating Remain by 2 points. For us, the key was the subtext. What percentage of your friends and neighbors will vote to leave? What percentage of your friends? By asking it that way, you're more likely to get an honest answer. But, Sean, if the focus is just on the polls over the next 18 days, then nothing is going to change. Because in the end, voters don't vote on polls. And I agree with Pat. The bigger the issue, the bigger the challenge. The more this is about change versus the status quo, the more likely you will get a change electorate. But it requires those kinds of questions to actually move the opinions of voters.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said. As you've traveled around the country, I know you've discussed this. It's always very difficult for a Republican, because they always got to thread the needle unless they can somehow break into and get back some of those blue-collar voters that have gone Democrat in recent years, get people in states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Ohio locked in, and Michigan. Does Donald Trump's message resonate any more than past Republicans because he's different on issues involving trade?
Let me give you a straight answer. The answer is yes. His message resonates more. His persona is what concerns people. And if it were just about his message, Sean, I believe that his language versus Hillary's, his position versus Hillary's, Trump wins. But on the persona, they see her as being experienced. They see her as being presidential. And they're not sure about his temperament.
Even though 70% think she's a liar and untrustworthy.
Absolutely. And that should be the issue.
Yeah.
But you just raised the point, Sean. If that's how they're voting, then Trump wins. But that's not been the focal point over the last 2 weeks.
And if he does that for 18 days, you think he comes back in a big way?
It's tough because they're not going to be standing side by side again between now and Election Day.